All right, I think we are live. Yes. So, what's going on, everybody? Um, Omega Dark here, coming at you with another video. Um, this time we're doing the 2025 Space Hub version of a tier list. I know I did one about, about 4, 5, 6 months ago, maybe now. So it feels like it wasn't long ago. But actually, a lot has changed in the game since that last recording. That last recording was at the end of Titan, and now this is the beginning of Space Hub. And the trend of event buildings has gotten pretty defined. So, we can safely make another video. All right. I'm also seeing a lot of buildings that are, out of date. That people maybe didn't watch my video or didn't heed the advice, but we're going to hopefully fix that this time around. All right. We're going to try and get this done in one take, and we're going to make this a lot shorter than the last one. So we're going to just try and get right through this. So what do we got? What is a tier list? A tier list is basically an order of ranking of a set of things, right? So what we're going to rank today is all the great buildings in Forge of Empires. We're going to divide them into one of 7 categories, and those are called your tier list. The top tier buildings is your S tier. These are buildings that you cannot live without. That if you don't have them in your city, you're making a mistake, or you're not being as good as you can be, or you're just, you're playing a different game than what you should be. All right. After that, you have your A tier list. So from A to F, you're going to think of that like you would in an academic setting, right? Where A is obviously like an A, B, C, and so on and so forth. All right. So your A buildings are really good, absolutely exceptional. You should not play the game without the A buildings. All right. Next is going to be your B list, which is these are kind of your workhorse buildings. Nothing wrong with them. They might have been better at some point in their life, but at this point, they're either showing some wear and tear or there's better things out there, right? Or maybe they were always, a B building, but it's something that you still want to have. Next, you have your C buildings, which is again like a C in an academic setting. It's passing, It's not the greatest, but you got your 2.0 and good to go, as they say. All right. Your C buildings are buildings that you want to have, but if you did not have them, it's not the end of the world, not even close. In fact, if you're like at a super upper echelon, you may even want to skip the C buildings. D, of course, is buildings that are starting to really fall apart. They're not good. They're inefficient. There's things that are better, and you should start looking for opportunities to phase these buildings out of your city. Okay. Next is going to be your F tier, which is like, your failure buildings, your absolutely horrible buildings. There should be no universe where you have your F buildings in your city. And if you do, then, good luck. Finally, your X tier buildings are buildings that are good for a time. Okay. These are buildings that you want to have for a temporary basis, and I'll explain each of those as we get through them. Okay. They have a short lifespan. Some might have a longer lifespan, but in another situation, once you get to your final form of your city, then your X tier buildings are also going to be ones that you want to phase out. Okay. So I just went through that very quickly, and we're going to just get through this right now. All right. We don't have a lot of time in the world, but we got enough time to make this happen. So what do we have down here at the bottom? We have every single Forge of Empires building in the game currently. Okay. I have them down here in the list from the ages that they start from, starting with the no age buildings, and then it goes to bronze, and then so on and so forth, all the way to stash buildings. So let's get started. Again, one take. There we go. I would say cut that out, but we're not going to cut anything. We're just going to post and go. All right. So first building on the list is the observatory. No era building. This building has gotten a lot stronger since the inclusion of blue stats on the battlegrounds map. It also gives good DAT, which is daily automatic tribute to your treasury. All right, so you definitely want to have this building in your city. It's not a be all end all, but it's definitely one of your workhorses. So that's going to go straight into the B column. All right. Next is your Oracle of Delphi. Um, when you are starting out a brand new city, this is very helpful for supply. But soon after, by roughly colonial, maybe industrial, at the latest, you want to get rid of this thing. It's only a 3x3. It's, nice and tight, but it's just not efficient, right? So you have it for a short time to help you kind of get over that supply hump, but then you let it go. So that's going to go right into the X buildings, or the X tier rather. Next, we have the Temple of Relics. Temple of Relics is, your specific building for Guild Expedition. Great building to have to build up your, I keep forgetting the name of this thing, the Daily Auction House, I think, no, not the Daily Auction House, the Antiques Dealer, that's what it is. You want that thing to create slots for you, right? And basically to create things to sell in the Antiques Dealer so that you can have, slots to open up. Once you open up your slots, though, this thing is not necessary anymore, right? It's completely obsolete. So that's going to go right into your X tier. I would say it's better than the Oracle, so put that in front of the Oracle. Next is your Tower of Babel. This thing was never good. There's no situation where you want to build this, not even for level 1. You just get a lot better ways to deal with housing, population, and supply, or rather in goods, when you're in the lower eras. So there's no situation where you want this. Even if you have this at level 100, guys, you don't need it. Go ahead and take it down. That 4x4 is much better served as, say, a Neo Colossus or something like that. So that goes right into the F tier. Next is the statue of Zeus. This used to be a top building, but and it's still decent because of its small footprint and how easy it is to level. But is it a be all end all? No. Do you want it in your city? Yeah, it definitely helps. So we're going to put that right into the B tier. It's going to be, well, since red stats are still more valuable than blue stats, we're going to put that into the first rank slot there on the B column. All right. Next is the Colosseum. No need to explain this. Terrible building, goes right into F tier. I think that's a well known, right? So that goes right into there. Now, incidentally, before I go too much further into this, and it's right at the 8-minute mark, I want to say this. A lot of people have been buzzing about, oh, maybe they're going to upgrade buildings one day and make them better and blah, 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 And if they do that, cool, great. Then we'll revisit and see what needs to be rebuilt, right? But you don't want to waste that space between now and whenever that day comes, if it comes, on things that you didn't need. Because forge points are just so abundant now. They just come in from every direction. So there's no reason to worry about that, right? If a building needs to be rebuilt, we can rebuild it. There's plenty of prints out there, so don't worry about you having a building that's obsolete and feeling like you don't want to tear it down. It's like pulling off a band-aid. Just do it. Okay. All right. Next is the Lighthouse of Alexandria. This one is also an X tier building. I would not build this past level 1, right? If you really have a supply issue when you're starting out, drop a level 1 and don't ever raise it to level 2, right? Just keep on getting your supply, until you're comfortable, and then get rid of this thing. Okay. There's plenty of ways to boost the supply, so this building is very much obsolete. The supply boost that you can get from practically anything, is in great abundance. So that alone makes this building obsolete. Okay, I would say that's better than the Oracle, but not better than this one, so it goes right there. Next is the COA, right? Castillo de Aachen, I believe it's called. This one has seen better days. Combat building, but it's still cheap to level. Kind of a big footprint, that 4x6 or 6x4 um, footprint. So it's not really that ideal. I like buildings that are even. The 3x3s, 4x4s, or 5x5s. But 6x4s or 4x6s are just kind of tough to deal with, right? Still decent building to have. But if you're looking to make space, you might want to consider chopping this one down. Still though, you know, not quite a workhorse, but it's there. It does its job. Okay, it's a C tier building. Okay, next is the Hagia Sophia. This one used to be good, used to be great. Plenty of forge points and happiness, but both of those are obsolete items now at this point. So that goes right into the F tier. Probably one of the better F tier buildings, so we'll put that at the front. But still, don't build this in your city, guys. Please don't have it. Next is this little deal right here. This new thing. I forget what this one's called. My goodness, drawing a blank here. Sorry, guys. Let's see. What is this thing called? It'll get to me by the time I get there. Watch. Maybe not. Yes, the Galata Tower. Okay, Galata Tower is small building, 3x3. Um, helps you with goods, but all you gotta do is learn to collect on time. And if you don't know how to collect on time, then to leave me a message. But once you figure that out and you get your goods situation good, don't even worry about that. Not something that you want to build. Um, but until you reach that point, if you're a brand new player, maybe hold on to it for a little bit. But I wouldn't build this. I had it at one point, but didn't get it past like level 30 or 40. So that goes into the X tier. Short time, you figure out who the attack neighbors are and just collect on time. Next is St. Mark's Basilica. This helps your coins and supply, but it's a big old chunker. It's a 6x6. It used to be a lot better, but now at this point, the coins are so plentiful and goods are so plentiful. I would not build this, in 2024, almost 2025. That goes right into the F tier. Next is, oh man, another one I forget. What is that baby called there? Let's see. The Notre Dame, of course. Derp. Okay. I'm only stupid on Mondays, I promise. So the Notre Dame never was a good building. Goes right into the F tier. The St. Basil's Cathedral, the Russian one, is actually a nice looking building. Helps you with the defense, but there's other ways to get defense, guys. But if you're struggling or you can't get the goods for the upper buildings that give defense, then maybe have it down for a little bit. But this is not something that I would level high. This is not a good building, like really. Personally, I'd put this into the F, tier list, but I can see, very rare situations where someone might want to have this, but, definitely something that you don't want to keep long term, right into X tier, but borderline F tier. Next is the CDM. I like this building. It gives attack, cheap to level, nice size, 5x5, and forge points. But it's seen better days, so it's going to go right into the C tier. Next is the Dio Castle. It's a 7x7, I believe. It's purely defense. Nope. That's a whole lot of nope. You already know what the Dio Castle was. So, I'm sorry, not the Dio Castle, the St. Basil's, which was almost an F. So this one is definitely an F. But I'd call it a little better because, it is defense, right? So, or blue stats. So we'll put it right there. Next is the Frankirche of Dresden. I used to have this one, a really good building, 5 by 5, you know, but it's definitely been outclassed at this point. So we're going to put that right there in F tier. Capital, not much to say about this one. Um, Not a good building to have, never really was good, so that's going to go right into F tier. Same as the Royal Albert Hall. Was never a good building, although it does give a lot of supply and goods, but there's better ways to do that nowadays. So this goes right into F tier as well, right there. All right, here comes the controversy. Um, the Chateau. The Chateau has seen better days, guys. There's some people that like having still level, 150, 200. You don't need that, guys. Trust me. There's 99 different ways to get supplies, rewards, and everything else. Just if you have it, keep it. Obviously, Um, is it something that you should spend a lot of time on? No, no. Get it to level 80, 90, 100, and then forget about it. Right now, I'm going to call this a C building, although it could probably someone could probably make an argument for it being a D building, right? Um, we'll revisit this. For now, we'll put it in C, but it's definitely a C minus is what it really is. Next is the other progressive building. We're in progressive now. This is the what is this thing? This is the Alcatraz. The Alcatraz was the primary way to get happiness and troops for a long time. Now there's other ways to get happiness. There's other ways to get troops now too. With event buildings and with other great buildings. So this thing is hurt. It has lost a lot of value. Is it still useful? Yeah. Depending on your city setup, absolutely it's valuable. But do you want to keep this long term? No. I would put this into the X tier. I would say D, but D implies it's not a good building, but it still has some value. So we're going to put it in X tier for now. But X also means that, you're going to keep it for a while, and then eventually, somewhere down the road, maybe 6, 12, 18, maybe even 24 months, you may want to think about letting this baby go. All right. I'm going to put that right at the very top of the DX list. Next is the Space Needle. Was never good, so we're going to just put this one right into the F tier. Next is the modern era building, the Atomium. I'm going to call it Atom because for some reason my mouth can't pronounce Atomium correctly. So this one is going to go into the X tier. All right. It's big. It's awkward looking. It gets in the way of everything. It's kind of like sand to to Anakin Skywalker. It just gets everywhere, right? A little reference there, but it's not something you want to keep long term. If your guild needs that, if you are in an era where your guild is kind of hurting on that, then yeah, you can throw this thing up and level it quickly, right? But once you start getting a bunch of Neo Colossus, this thing loses its value very quickly. Like once you get to about 5, 10, actually like somewhere between like 5 and 10 Neo Colossi, which is not that hard to get, as long as you're in a decent guild, you don't need this thing no more, right? The Atomium can definitely go. So we'll put that into the X tier. Next is the Cape Canaveral. All right, this was a great building. Back in 2017, 2016, 2018, everyone had these, right? Because forge points were hard to come by. You know, but after the years, people have done the math, the return on investment, the ROI. People have come to realize it's not really that great, right? So, you know, um, if you already got to level 80, I wouldn't keep it. If you got to level 100, then yeah, there's an argument to hold on to it for a little while, But I'm gonna call this a D tier building, okay? Only keep this thing, guys, if you're at level 100 or higher. All right. If you're below level 100, then you honestly, truly do not need this, and you are wasting your time leveling this thing up. So trust me on this, you'll see. So that's going to go right into the D tier. D tier means that it is hurting, it's obsolete. You should be looking to replace this thing soon. It's kind of like, its picture implies, the little, the rocket from the 1960s and 70s. That thing's been replaced by, you know, um, the Tesla rockets now. It's just it's obsolete. It used to get the job done, but not no more. All right, habitat. This was something some people had back in the guild versus guild days, but guild versus guild is now gone. So there's never any reason to ever have this building. So that's going to go right into F tier. Next is the innovation tower. This is another a population building. It also gives forge points. Um, there are some scenarios where people could have population issues, and it might be worth putting down for a little while. But once you figure out your population issues, then you don't want this. So this is going to go right into X tier, right? Have it for a time if you need it, but otherwise, if you don't, then you need to X this baby out. Okay. We're going to put that right there. So this is really kind of like an F minus or like a hybrid FX building. All right. Don't ever build this unless you absolutely need it. Okay. And if you got to build this, then you're doing something wrong. But, it all depends on what area people are in. So just kind of look at that. Next is the Lotus building. The Lotus Temple was never good, even when it was current content. So this goes right into the F tier right there, we'll say. Okay, we are now in Tomorrow Era. Tomorrow Era, the first on the list is the Voyager, right? The Voyager, has a fun little mechanic where, if you like to plunder your neighbors, it gives you a little boost, and it gives you supply, but it's not worth it, guys. Like, who really plunders anymore? It's no, you know. Plundering needs to be reworked, and maybe if that is ever done, then maybe this will make a comeback. But right now, no. This building is nice to look at, but not worth having. Goes right there. Okay, next is the, actually we'll put this in front of the Tower of Babel. Yeah, right there is a good spot. Okay, next is the, what is this thing called again? It changed its name not too long ago, right? Yeah, the Truce Tower, that's it. The Truce Tower is decent if you are an HAU player, meaning a higher age unit player, and you're trying to just stack up higher ages goods. It's good to have, you know. Um, but is it something you want long term? Not really, So you have it for a little while, but but if you're not an HAU player, right, and even if you're an HAU player, you really don't have the, space to waste on this building. But if you need it for whatever reason in the lower areas, you don't want this long. All right, definitely by the time that you get beyond, future era, you don't want this building no more. Nice to look at, really cool and innovative, but I think it's modeled after one of the Dubai buildings, if I recall correctly. But yeah, we'll put that after, yeah, right there. That's where it is. This used to be the top of the list, on my last video, but now it's losing some value. Next is the Rainforest Project. Really cool to look at, really cool concept. Get prints, anytime you eat, but prints are so easy to come by now. There's so many different mechanics to get prints, with either buildings, by aiding, by just throwing a few forge points on your friends' buildings. You don't need this, guys. So we're going to put that right before the Tower of Babel. Okay, this is starting to shape up. All right, so now we get to the future era buildings, or the other future era building rather. This is the Ark. We all know what the Ark does. The Ark is obviously the game changer. Came out in, I believe it was 2015. Really cannot play the game without an Ark, right? So Ark is the very first S tier building. So boom, there it goes. Next is the Gaia statue. really interesting kind of setup, a very Polynesian sort of thing. It's the first, the Arctic building. Um, Real heavy on happiness, but again, there's different ways to get happiness, so it was never really that great. So this goes right. It's probably better than the other happiness buildings. So I'm going to put that right there after the population buildings. Yep, right there. That's a good spot for it. All right, next is the Arctic Orangey. Um, Great building for anyone that's not an HAU player. Okay. HAU players can't make use of any critical strike bonus, when they're in battlegrounds. So for HAU players, this building has literally no value. You know, it's just a lot of forge points and a lot of space when they already have limited space. But for everyone else, that's fighting with units at their era, this unit, or rather, this building is fantastic. Right? It really stretches out your attrition. It really comes to clutch on a lot of things. So you definitely want to have this building. I'm going to call this the other S tier building. Okay, right there, right after the arc. Okay, my personal favorite is next, the seed vault. Right, I believe strongly in the seed vault. It's you know on my last setup, I believe I called it an A tier building. But now with just the way that event buildings are just coming loaded with goodies, with either coins, supplies, units, goods, everything. It's might have lost some its value now. It's the only building other than the chateau that affects your diamonds, because this thing can actually give you diamonds, right? I know that there's the wishing well and all that stuff and the fountain of youth, but if you're an actual competitive player, you don't have a fountain of youth in your city unless you got nothing else for it. So the seed vault, still a strong building. Do you have to have it? No. Does it really help you? Yes. I'm going to call this a B building. Okay. Um, I would call it a B plus, but technically I would rather have a Zeus and an Obs before I have a seed vault. So it's not going to be better than these two. But it is technically in its own little kind of niche, where it's still a very good building. So your seed vault is a Class B building. All right, next is the Atlantis Museum, another fancy thing, that gives you bonuses for plundering and goods. But again, no one really plunders at this point. It's way too big and way too expensive to level. We're now in Oceanic Future, so this is going to go. It's going to go right here, right after the Voyager, but before um, the Rainforest. Okay, next is the Kraken. Kraken, I still see this building everywhere, right? Well, not everywhere now, but people are starting to get it, right? This thing is expensive to level. It's a good little shape, that 5x5 shape, but for its effect, it's limited effect. You get like 20 shots of it. It will, do an elimination on one of your opponents on the field. But guys, you can get virtually the same effect out of your critical strike. So not worth it, right? It gives less forge points per level than the cape. So it's actually less valuable and less efficient than the cape. It's not efficient building, because if you're trying to save your charges to eliminate an opponent, right, then you're not using its main function, which is forge points to its highest capacity. So it just has inefficiency written everywhere on it. If you have one at level 80 or less, please delete it. It's terrible, right? Level 100, maybe there's an argument if you have nothing else for it, you know, but really, if you got yourself beyond level 100 with this thing, then you've made a mistake somewhere, all right? And, you know, you need to reconsider your options and get rid of this thing, okay? All those forge points that you spent on it could have gone to your AO, and you would be in much better shape. because the AO does essentially the same thing. It grants a critical strike, but the critical strike, it doesn't wear out, and the forge points it gives you are per level. So I'm gonna put it in D for now. It's really a D minus, all right. But it's definitely obsolete. If you have it in your city, I'm gonna give you a funny look, but there's also some understanding as to why you might have it, right? But definitely, along with the cape, this should be at the top of your list to get rid of things. Okay, next one is probably a little controversial, is the Blue Galaxy. This is the cream of the crop that came out of Oceanic Future. All right. On my last list, I called this an A tier building. I think I called it an A plus, right? But now with how good event buildings are, okay, especially if you get the gold place league, in events, those things are crazy, right? Um, I've had days, and by days I mean many days, and what I mean by that is often. The Blue Galaxy alone is responsible for bringing in about anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 forge points on its own. Okay, you definitely want this thing in your city, and I'm going to call this your greatest forge point producer. It doubles, on prints or like on like special productions, anything that you want, you can farm it with this thing. So, in my opinion, you really cannot play the game without a Blue Galaxy. So this goes into S tier. That's the third S tier building. All right. So now we move on to Virtual Future. We're now in the Terracotta Army, kind of a big expensive thing, kind of a workhorse-ish building. Uh, you, your B buildings are your good workhorses. Your C tier buildings are your workhorses that are breaking down. Okay, so this is going to go into the breaking down column. It's expensive. It's got that awkward shape. I'm going to put it right behind the COA, just based on cost of leveling, right? The COA gives red stats and gold, or coins rather, and this thing gives blue and red stats, but it's much more expensive and less efficient. So it's going to go into C. Next is your Himeji Castle, probably one of the best looking buildings in the entire game. The artist who did this, chef's kiss. Okay, one of the best looking buildings in the game. But at this point, when it first came out, yeah, it was nice to look at. It gave cool rewards and everything. But every reward that you get from this building at this point is either comparable to or better than what the Himeji can produce. And it's more consistent. So I'm gonna call the Himeji Castle a D tier building. Maybe a D. Yeah, just a solid D, not a D plus, not a D minus, just a solid D. All right. If you have it, yeah, I got you. It's hard to get rid of, but eventually you're going to need to find space for it. Or I'm sorry, let me say that again. If you need space, this needs to be at the top of your list, along with its other brothers here in the D column or in D list. Okay, let's speed it up here a little bit. Next is the Virgo project. Was terrible even when it came out. It's a cheaper, less efficient hole in the ground. With only 5 charges to destroy a bunch of enemies, so the answer is no. Just work on your critical strike. We're going to put this in F. Don't ever build this. Trust me, it's not good. We're going to put this before the main supply buildings, but after, actually, yeah, we're going to go right here, actually. So what I mean by this placement is that I would build, if I had to build something, right, I would build all the buildings in front of the Virgo project before I built the Virgo project. All right. So you can see, and by front I mean to its left, right, which means that I would build the Virgo project before I build anything to its right. Okay. So yeah, the Virgo project is not good. Next is the Stargazer, kind of a small building. 4x5, 5x4. It gives prior age supplies, kind of expensive to level. Maybe if you're in future era or like in one of those little quirky zone eras, like in that you're trying to race through, like oceanic or Arctic or virtual future, and you didn't spend a lot of time in the previous era, so you didn't get a lot of goods. Maybe in that situation, I would have this for a little while, but definitely by the time that you get to Mars, you don't want this thing, guys. I'm going to put this probably right there, meaning I would build it before I build anything to its right, but I would not build it before I build anything to its left. Okay, space carrier, another building that is X tier. It's great to have to build up your special supply needs, or I'm sorry, your special goods needs, like your orichalcum, your promethium, and like the other special goods that you need in those eras. But you don't want this forever, right? So it's going to go also in X. Once you have your special goods kind of built up, you got to get rid of this thing, guys. There's so much better ways, to that you can use your space, and honestly, as I recall, it never gave you, or it was rare that it gave you the actual special goods that you needed. It always gave you a previous era one, right? So the longer so in other words, listen to this carefully. The longer you have it, the worse it gets. In Arctic Future, great, because it's going to give you, promethium. In Oceanic, not bad. It's going to give you promethium, which you still need, or a calcium. All right. In Virtual Future, there's no special goods there, so whatever, you still need the other two. By Mars, you're looking at, three different things that you need. So no, it's time to move on from the space carrier. The space carrier, I'm going to put it right there. Okay. The Flying Island, really cool building. Comes just after the Himeji Castle as far as beauty and an interest to look at, right? It has that golden ratio of looks to it, we'll say, But yeah, it was never good, even when it was current content. So it's going to go right here. We'll say right there. Okay. Now we are to, what is this? Jupiter. This is the AI core. Another DAT building, another one that kind of also functions like the space carrier, but kind of really expensive, even though it is a good shape, that 5x5. But you want this for a little while, but its main function is to bring in DAT goods, right? So once you got 8 to 10 Colossus, you don't need this no more. Maybe even 7 of the Neo Colossus, you don't need this. So this is going to go right into the X tier. All right, next, or actually, we're now in Titan. Okay. Wow, we're already over 30 minutes. Okay. So the first Titan building is the Pegasus, I believe. Let me see. That's the one that's that weird color, right? That has the orange up top. Yeah, that's the Pegasus. So the Pegasus is, gotten a lot more value ever since BlueStats came out, right? And it gives forge points, so it's not a loser of a building, but it's not the greatest in the world, right? It's a workhorse. So it goes right into the B column. In fact, I would call it better than all of the B column buildings, so it's going to go right there. It's not a B plus, but it's definitely better than the other B buildings. So it's going to go right there. Okay. The reason it goes in front of the Zeus and the OBS is because it's more efficient than both of those. All right. In one level of this baby right here, you need 10 of the ops levels to match one level of the Pegasus. As far as like the actual boost, right? Because for the ops, it's one every other level for a boost, and for the Pegasus, it's one every level you get 5. So 5 times every other level, 2 levels, 10. So you can do the math yourself. Compare 10 levels of the ops versus 1 level of the Pegasus, and you'll figure out which one is more efficient, right? Are they both still good? Yeah, absolutely. The ops is just much more cheaper to level, in the early stages, but to equal the same value, you kind of need the ops, especially because it brings in DAT goods too. Okay, next is I believe that is the Centaurus, right? Nope, that's the Hydra. The Hydra, of course, the Hydra is one of the Titan buildings, and it gives that, and it gives blue and red attack at 3, right? So it basically has everything that you need, to make the game good. So definitely a valuable building. Um, since it has everything that you need, it's going to go right into the A tier. Okay, right there. Not an A plus, not A minus. It's just a straight up, you know, an A building, meaning it's very good at everything it does. All right, so it goes right into A. It's not something that you can't live without. You can live without the Hydra if you have to. If you can't get the goods. But does it enhance your game in every possible way? Yes, it does. So is it required? No, it's not. So that makes it not an S. Is it a workhorse? No. You know, it's definitely a valuable building, so it goes into A. Finally is the Centaurus. Let's double check. That's the Centaurus, right? With the white war on top. Yes. And the Centaurus, of course, it gives red stats and it gives previous age goods. So yeah, those are winning things, right? The majority of fights that you do in the game still are red stats, but I imagine that's probably going to change in due time. But for now, it's definitely an A tier building, so it's going to go right there. All right. Next is the Stellar Warship. This is one of the new buildings from Space Hub. Interesting building. It gives blue and red stats at a very alarmingly high rate at +5 per level, and it gives 2 units per level, from your city. So it basically is a combat building, but also acts like an Alcatraz. So yeah, very valuable, obviously. So this goes right into A tier, right? Very efficient and everything else. In fact, I would even call it better than the other two. But yeah, it's better than the other two. So it goes right there. I would have this before I have the other two, right? If you can afford it. And finally is the last Space Hub building, the Cosmic Catalyst, which gives critical strike and DAT, right? So, and both of those are at a really decent rate. The bonus that you get for critical strike is roughly about the same increase that you get for a level 160-ish AO. So, it starts out expensive like that, but its cost is, far less, about 1/3 less than equal value Arctic Orangey. So it's definitely something to have at level 40, or so and higher. At level um, at level 15 and higher. All right. So and I stand corrected. 13. So it's roughly 25% of the value. And I'm getting myself confused here, but yeah, you guys see what I'm saying. Good building to have. Okay. I wish I was editing this. So because it's critical strike, it's going to go right into the S tier, right? I would not value it higher than the AO because the AO is cheaper to level at the early levels. But I would have this before I have the Blue Galaxy. So yeah, it's definitely it's a high value building. So there you go. Let's take a quick run through this to make sure that's how we want things. All right, so S tier, which is again you shouldn't play without them. Actually, on second thought, we're going to bump this down to the A tier, right? I'd call this probably an A minus, right? Or I'm sorry, an A plus, because you can play the game without the Cosmic Catalyst, because you already have the AO, right? Definitely a valuable building, so we're going to call that an A plus. The same with the warship, awesome building to have. Should you have it? Yes. Do you have to have it? No. Same as the Centaurus and Hydra, awesome buildings, but you don't need to have them, right? Your workhorse buildings, your Pegasus, your Zeus, Obs, and Seed Vault, great buildings to have, right? They enhance your play. Can you get away without them? Yeah, absolutely. If you only had the A tier and above, you'll be fine, right? But if you have if you have the B tier buildings, you're doing great too. Okay. C buildings. C buildings are looking a little shabby. Okay. still bring you value. You know, I'm not saying get rid of them today. Don't go and delete your, you know, your your chateau, guys. Okay, but if you need space, you know, and if you have nothing below C, then these are the buildings that you start looking at next. Okay. Personally, I have everything in C tier and above, and I'm probably going to have my C tier and above, you know, for a while. But at some point, I'm going to be looking at my C buildings as, you know, the first to go. Okay. D buildings, if you have them, yeah, I get it, I understand, but you're getting the side eye. Okay, you're getting that side eye like, yo, bro, it's time to, you know, to upgrade your car. You know, like having a cape is like having yourself one of these crappy like 1985 cars. You know, that you hold together with tape. You know, with duct tape and 550 cord. You know, it's time to get rid of that thing, guys. You know, you can upgrade. It's okay to spend a little bit of money. Okay. The same goes with the crack and definitely the Himeji. Okay. The Himeji, just because it looks good, you know, it has that pretty privilege. It gets to hang out in D for a little while longer, but at some point, that pretty privilege ain't gonna, you know, cut it no more, and you're gonna have to get rid of the Himeji, guys. I'm sorry. So there you go. All right, that is your tier list. We kept it under 50 minutes, a lot longer than I wanted to, but there you have it. That's all the buildings for December 2024, almost 2025, and we're gonna call it a wrap. All right, S, A, and B definitely have. C, you know, if you have them already, keep them. If you're a brand new player coming in, don't really need these. Okay. D and below, or D and F, don't ever build them. Okay, if you haven't built them yet. If you still have D, start looking at replacing. Okay, you don't need that 1985 Volkswagen Rabbit, you know, or that Pinto anymore. Okay, X buildings, I get it. You need something for a little while, you know, but start looking at seeing what you can upgrade. Okay, and we're gonna call it a wrap. Have fun, guys. Any questions, ask in the comments or in the game. Laters.